Hi, welcome to Stat Sisters. My name is Carrie, and I talk each week with my sister Erin about all things nursing, with the occasional Harry Potter thrown in. We talk about the nursing topics that you care about. We also chat about nurses in the news, and most importantly, answer your questions. Good morning, Carrie.
You look lovely today.
Oh, why thank you. I showered.
My life goals.
I know, right? I'm such a big girl.
So, how are things going with you today?
They're going well. I'm off today, and so I've got we're gonna do a play date here in a little bit with some friends and um just kind of relax, and then I'm gonna hang out with Olivia tonight. We've got an activity at the church for girls her age, and so I'm excited to go do that and just kind of doing a mom day, which is always great.
That sounds so nice. Kind of like chill. Very
Yeah, I
good.
love chill days. What about you? What's on the docket?
Well, I'm also off, which is lovely. Anyway, so I had a little mommy daughter date today. I took America to see Allison's play that they've been working on this morning, and it was wonderful. It was about the Red Baron. It was interesting, and there's a lot.
Oh, was it? I
Allison's,
didn't know what it was.
yeah, like she's not an actor. She was doing like the soundboard and lights and all that, and so it's like a big job, and it was great. And they had all these different types of visual effects, and they made like a scale, not a scale, but like they made like a smaller version of the Red Baron's plane. It was kind of cool looking.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we were talking about it a little this event today, this weekend, but I didn't even ask her what it was on. So that's great. Now I actually know.
Yeah, it was cool. And
So
like all
cool. Way
the
to
high
go,
school
Allison.
students, like they've been practicing their German accent, so it was interesting.
They- Did
But
they sprechen good?
yeah, they did. It was great. And then the rest of the day,
Well, good.
just like, mom stuff. That's it. I have
Right.
no earth
Which is the
shattering
best ever.
announcements.
I know, we're done with that. We did that last week. So that's great, though. Sometimes we just need some chill normalcy. All right. Well, moving on, moving on. We've got some fun topics. Carrie, as you guys know, if you listened to our last episode, Carrie just got hot off the plane. Well, no, not off the plane. Hot out of the car from, that doesn't sound as good.
Well, that was a hot mess out
Carrie
of the
just got
car.
back. Carrie just got back from a fantastic nursing conference in Indianapolis. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. So take it away, Carrie girl.
All right. Well, while I was having like a great time, I texted Erin and I was like, "Have you ever been to a nursing conference?" Because if you haven't, hopefully I can inspire nurses to. It is spendy. We'll get to the pros and cons later, but nursing conferences are so exciting, and it kind of like fills your bucket. Like nurses, we work day to day, giving, 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 and we kind of lose sight. We lose sight sometimes of the whole nursing picture because we're just like, okay, I need to give a Percocet. I need to go change somebody's bedpan. It just gets really redundant, and you get really super energized at these conferences, and you remind yourself like why you wanted to be a nurse in the first place. And it gives you kind of like that extra boost you need to fight off burnout and everything. And so I was at this conference, Sigma Theta Tau, and I was having the best time ever. And it was like a really good conference. It was creating a healthy work environment. So there was lots of topics about like resilience and um, like decreasing incivility, like which is another word for like bullying. And of course, we talked about staffing because that's a huge concern. Like we talked about a whole bunch of things, and it was really inspiring. And I was like, "Oh, I'm having the best time. I feel so fulfilled." And I wonder if Erin's ever been to a conference because she's never talked about it. And so I texted her and she said
And you go
no.
to
And I was
them
like, this,
a couple times a year.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, this is a travesty. My stat sister needs to have gone to a conference.
I know. I've just let all of our listeners down. You've made me look like a total slacker. And some uneducated pawn.
I think that nurses don't realize how important it is to go because, for one, depending on where you go, it's like super expensive. And they have the conferences on purpose, like in big cities, usually, unless you go to like a regional conference or very local conference, which those are really good too. Um, they're very expensive. You have to fly usually because not everybody's like down for like the 16-hour drive like me. And it's just cost prohibitive and it's hard to get time off of work. And depending on your hospital, I know some hospitals just don't pay ever, some pay a lot, so it's just really variable.
Well, then there's family life to balance, and
Yeah, so I want to challenge you, Erin. I want to convince you that it is worth it. It is worth to go to these conferences at least, every like a couple of years go to something because it really helps with like that burnout feeling. It helps you get inspired to do more, not necessarily like go back to school or anything, but like just do more. Like I'm going to do more on my unit, or I'm going to read a journal article, and I'm going to do like a policy change, or even I'm just going to feel a lot better about the work I do because it's really awesome. Just get pumped up about it because being a nurse is a really fabulous profession. And I think it gets lost sometimes in the day to day.
right. And it's well, because it's a really fabulous but yet draining profession, and we've talked about that both professionally and personally. It can be very draining if you, and we keep using this phrase "fill your bucket," but it's so true. I love it, that phrase, because it's such a visual phrase. And we have a lot of people in our profession who don't take care of themselves. We're givers, obviously. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And so we're usually not just a giver professionally, we're typically doing the same in our personal lives. And so eventually you need to stop and take care of yourself. And I don't doubt at all what you're saying. And I don't have anything against nursing conferences. I personally think it would be great. I'm always like almost like a groupie when you go because you're telling me all these stories and I'm like, oh, that is so cool. Or, oh, you send me pictures and I'm like, oh, I wish I was there. And it looks so neat. But I'm one of those nurses. I'm a busy mom. I'm a busy wife. I'm a busy nurse. And so it is cost prohibitive, time prohibitive to go to these. But I absolutely agree. Because if I get this excited from just hearing about your experiences at a nursing conference, like secondhand, I'm sure it's way better going in person.
No,
And I'm
it
thinking like
is.
smaller. Oh, I'm sure. So we need to talk about, I guess, pros and cons, and I would love to like set a goal in the next year. I'm going to attend a nursing conference and I would love to do that. I've gone to, of course, smaller workshops and things, with my hospital or even before I was an RN in the medical field, and I loved those experiences. And even if you do have to clear your schedule a little bit once you go, I think you're rarely like, oh, I'm here. I think you really enjoy it because you sign up for stuff that you like and are interested in, and the workshops that, are pertinent to you. So I agree in theory. I am not opposed to nursing conferences. I just, life gets in the way. So how do we change that?
Well, I think one thing that we can do, the people that are fortunate enough to go more often than others, utilizing social media like Twitter is so important because, like you said, you were like getting like that buzz off of me secondhand. But if I wasn't sharing that with you, of course, I'm going to share with you like even more than I do on social media. But tweeting about it, I know like I think there was like an A1 conference like 2 years ago that I really wanted to go to, and it was in San Diego, but I couldn't because it was in San Diego and I was broke. It was too far from Texas to go.
Darn it.
But I just followed all of the nurses on Twitter and saw like all the things that we were doing and the topics, and then they would like post links to different things or post pictures or little video clips. And I was like so like enthusiastic about it. I was like, yay, I felt kind of like a little buzz from it. Like I was not there, but like I was getting kind of the
So even though you're not there, you're still kind of getting a live feed from it because, that's, I'm not a huge Twitter person just because I guess I'm not like down. But that's awesome about Twitter. It's even more so, I think, than Facebook and some of the other social medias. It's a very, very live, fluid thing. And so you're constantly keeping up to date.
okay, well, and okay, so if you can't go, then that's like a good alternative. So you can kind of get the good vibes and everything, get pumped back up. But really, the best thing is to actually go. So, how do we do that?
Right.
Well,
Because it's not, like
yeah.
we said, it's not always the easiest thing.
If people, one thing that people probably don't know is that if you itemize, then you can deduct that cost from your taxes because it's a work expense. So that's something that
Cool.
might
I didn't
defray the
realize
cost
that.
a little bit. Yeah. And so that's one way to help defray the cost. If you can get your employer to pay part of it, that is also another way. And your employer is also a resource. Sometimes there's hidden funds that you don't really know about. So if it's not something that your unit is usually supporting, then you can ask in education. There's all different types of little budgets buckets that you can probably pull from. And also, if you can make a case that this is going to bring something back to the unit, then you might be able to get funding. So some things that you might bring back to the unit, for example, this past conference, like the creating healthy work environments, if your unit needs work in that area, that's a great selling point to send you to that so you can get back resources and bring it back to the unit.
Well, and so that brings up a good point because I've always kind of wondered. I think I just assumed that the reimbursement would come out of like the education budget, but I guess where you mentioned that there's various pockets. So just to educate us a little bit, where are some various areas in the budget that this may come out of if you're talking about employer reimbursement?
Well, there's department, um, like your department or your unit education budget, but also the hospital usually has like a system or hospital wide education bucket. And some funds are sometimes there, and they might reserve those for promoting the hospital. So if it looks really good if at St. Mungo's some nurses are presenting at a conference. So I know a couple of the hospitals I worked at, they would definitely pay if you submitted an abstract and were accepted. And we are all doing like great work all the time. So there's definitely things that you could submit and get accepted. And then the hospital has a vested interest, like, because you're representing them, their good work at the conference. So they sometimes will be more willing to pay. And then another way is the unit budget, like not the education budget, but the unit budget. You can, if you say, like, maybe I'm going to learn about XYZ and come back and do an education for the rest of the nurses when I get back and like share what I learned. And that's the part that I think kind of is a disconnect. Like we go to all these conferences, a few of us, but then there's not like that translation back to the unit just to share what you learned and kind of energize the whole unit.
Right, absolutely, and I think that's another way, of course, to reap the benefit. And the units, of course, can't afford, even if they do reimburse, they can't afford to send the entire the entire staff. We obviously have to have people working still, and I'm sure the budget doesn't incorporate that much. So we can send, one person or two people, depending on what it is, or if they're presenting, and then come back and disseminate that. And I like that idea rather than just like, I'm just going to make a poster, but like to actually hold like a mini conference or presentation, maybe at the next staff meeting or something, to actually kind of liven up and bring home and make more personal for your unit the information that you've learned. So I really I like that approach, to help those of us who aren't always able to go for one reason or another. Because I know on my unit, there are nurses who are, and units I've worked on all over. There's always, the people who are consistently going to the conferences, and that's kind of their thing, and they love it. And some are really great about coming back and bringing it, and you like to pick their brains. So like, oh, what did you talk about? And oh, that's really interesting, because there's a lot of newer research, of course, that's being discussed. That doesn't. It takes a while to trickle down to the hospital level. So it's kind of like you're getting like an in, like an early in when you go to these conferences.
That's totally
You're like the
true.
cool club.
That's so true. Because you, I mean, usually the people that are presenting their latest work.
Right.
And so that's like the research before it even hits publication.
Right. So it's not like there was this study back
It's
in
really,
2003, This is new and
no.
valid and pertinent.
You're like, yeah, they're like, we just finished this and we're going to be publishing this next year, but this is what we learned so far. And
Yeah.
it's like amazing.
You're ahead of the curve. So especially maybe if you have a unit that's very forward thinking, that could be another angle that you could pursue, is to get that, we want to be on the ball. We want to be, most current nurse practice and best patient outcomes, and all of those lines as well. So great, awesome. So what about, we talked about cost prohibitive factors, I think, quite a bit. What are some other, I think honestly, and when I look at the pros cons for nursing, it's like they kind of go hand in hand. Like cost prohibitive, but the pro to that is that it's so awesome to go. So what are some other reasons that keep people from going, and how can we circumvent those?
I think another reason people don't want to go is because they don't think it's going to be pertinent to them.
Absolutely. I've had
And
ones.
maybe
Yep.
they have like a specialty. And like I was going to this conference and I was excited because I was presenting my DNP work, but I didn't know how pertinent it would be to my practice. I was just like, okay, I'll check out the sessions and everything. But then every session I went to, it was like it was speaking to me and it was amazing. I'm so glad I went.
Awesome. And I'm sure there's an extent of you get out of it what you put into it. So, but for people who are unfamiliar with nurse conferences, is it something where they're like, this is our theme this year, and every conference talks, or every workshop in that conference talks about that one theme or a variation on the theme? Or are they very multifactorial where it covers, could a med surg nurse, a neuro nurse, an OB nurse, and an ER nurse all attend the same conference and get something out of it for their specialty?
That is such a great question. So it depends. It depends on the conference. So like for example, the ANCC Magnet Conference, they have a couple every year, but there's a one big one every year, and it's for all nurses, anybody from a magnet hospital or anybody trying to become a magnet hospital. And so that one is very diverse, and you can, like, if you like have a very small specialty, there might be a little difficulty getting sessions that are just for your specialty, but overall you're gonna find there's so many different sessions that you're gonna be like, man, I really want to go this and this, and it's at the same time. Usually there's not it's not a problem trying to find something. So there's how this nursing conferences usually work. There's like a few general sessions, and usually they get some really cool speakers to come. Like at the last magnet conference I went to, they had like Montel Williams come. So that's cool. And you get like all this energy from all these nurses, and it's really fun. And then they'll have breakout sessions that are like more topic specific. And you can really like, I've gone to some that are like very, very specific. Like this is how we, like a bereavement room in our hospital. And these are how we overcame barriers and how we got funding, like super like drill down. And then some of them are like really kind of larger topics, like just social media in general, connected to nursing or burnout or whatever topic it is.
All right, so you can really kind of shop around maybe for what works for you if you want to go to these national conferences or even, I know like A1 does their own, of course, conference, and I'm sure there's definitely, ICU nurse associations and everything. You can always go to your own if you're a certified or even just in a subspecialty. Those were going to be definitely more specific. So you can tailor your conference uh,
Yeah, you
to
don't
what you
have
want.
to go to a fancy, really expensive national conference to get some really great things out of it. Like those little tiny, I mean, they're small. There might be like 200 nurses or 100 nurses versus like 3,000 nurses. It's still, actually, there's this conference I just went to was a lot smaller, and the one in February was a lot smaller. But I actually enjoyed those just as much for different reasons because I actually got to see the same people more than once. I got to make some really good connections with people. Um, Networking was really great. And in some of the larger conferences, it's just like you're running from like one part of a conference center to the opposite, and you're like trying to get there and you're just exhausted. That's it. In October when I went, that's when I walked like 20 miles in one day
Oh
because I
my
was just
goodness. So
like
you're more
trying
just
to
of a
go everywhere.
participant. Awesome. Well, I know, and then last year when you went to A1, it was in New Orleans, and that was just amazing. So got to remember, here's your side personal benefit, ladies and gents, is you go and you get all this professional education, but then you get to have this rockin' time as well. Because they hold them in these great locations. It's
Absolutely. And oh, I can't forget, you get continuing nurse education hours. So if you're
yes.
paying for those anyway, like online or whatever, you're getting those wrapped up into that conference fee. So
Yep.
and you're getting some like it's not going to be like the modules online. They're like very, like Erin was saying, up to date information.
Awesome. Great. Well,
So
are
those
we
are the
missing
pros and the
anything?
cons. No, I think that's it. Just everyone go. Like if you can't afford a big one, just start with a little one, smaller one. You won't regret it.
Okay. So if it's something that you've been
And I'm
thinking
dragging you
about
to
at
something
all,
next year.
yep. If you're like me and it's something you've been tossing around, set a goal, in the next year. And then for those of you who have gone, let us know. We want to hear your feedback and which ones you've loved and what your specialty is and maybe what you'd recommend. Like, I would definitely do this again, but I wouldn't have done that. I would have paid for the parking or I would have taken a taxi. Even those little things. Let us know how it worked for you and what you enjoy, and hopefully we can kind of share some information. So reach out to us on either statsisters.com or Facebook and kind of give us some feedback there. We'd love to hear it because we'd like to encourage nurses, educating nurses, and keeping people excited and interested and fresh in our field. So I accept your challenge, Carrie. We're gonna do it. Yes.
Yes, I'm excited. We'll have to pick
I
one.
know.
We have time
It's a
because I'm
date.
going to be living there.
I know. Woo! Did we mention you're gonna be living here? So,
Okay, well, I have another nursing topic for us, Erin.
all right, let's do
Okay,
it.
so I am kind of conflicted. So actually, I need maybe some advice from you, my dear sister slash nurse friend, and I hope people don't judge me too much when I say this.
This sounds good.
So, for the first part of my career, I have unabashedly been an advocate for people going into nursing. No qualms about it. I'm very enthusiastically encourage people, help them to apply for nursing school, giving them references, all this stuff. And then my daughter, who is 16, going on 30, has decided that she maybe wants to be a nurse practitioner. And my heart fell out of my chest. I was like, oh, sweetheart, because she's my precious baby. And I just all of the things that have happened to me since I became first a CNA, a nursing assistant, till now, like flooded into my brain, and I was like, oh, I want that. I don't want that for you. Like I want you to do something far away from blood and poop and puke and old men slapping your bum
And drunk
and
people
doctors talking
and
bad to you and nurses being mean to you, but she'd be
family
amazing.
members being mean
Yeah,
to
but she'd be
you.
amazing.
Oh yeah,
She's
she
so
would.
smart and
And we want you to get paid what you're worth and go home at five
yeah.
o'clock. And go take a potty break when you want to.
Yeah.
And okay, so I can see this from a
Okay,
mother's
so
point of
and
view.
then I was
Okay.
talking to some of
I'm in your
my
zone.
colleagues at work, and they gave me the worst, like, mean mug, like, evil stare when I mentioned that I may not want my daughter to be, like, following in our footsteps. And they're like, what? Why? And I'm like, oh no, I'm a horrible person. And then so we were going out to dinner with my son and his girlfriend and the rest of my family. And I asked her, like, so what are you going to do for employment? Like, in the near future, because they're seniors and they're about to go to college. And I'm like, hmm. And she's like, oh, well, I want to be a nurse. And I'm like, great. Like, it was back as soon as it wasn't my daughter.
Oh,
You know,
really? Okay. So it's not like you fell off the wagon now that you're a mom with prospective,
like,
like college
no,
age
I totally was
children.
ready to push
You
her
just don't
into it.
want your
I'm like,
daughter.
I'll write you a reference. I know a ton of nurses in Houston and professors. I'm like, you just let me know when you're ready to apply. I'm like, it's a great
Oh my
profession,
goodness.
and it's honorable, and you'll love it. And so I need your advice of, like, first, why do I feel like this? And second, like, I feel like if it's my own daughter and I'm having all of these reservations, then there's obviously a downside to nursing that maybe we should talk to people about, because the people that come into nursing are not always
Right.
prepared for what it actually is. So that is what I want this topic to be. Like,
Absolutely.
the good and the bad when you're contemplating going to nursing, what you should really know.
Got it. Down and dirty. Okay. And I know in medicine, we all have a very, I don't want to say raunchy, but a very sarcastic, brass sense of humor when it comes to our jobs. And we joke about how hard it is and the specific things that are difficult, whether, it's the traumas you see in the ER or maybe the stillbirths in OB or the withdrawal patients on the medical units, the abuse patients in pediatrics, whatever it is, we kind of, and it sounds so twisted to anybody who's not in medicine, but we joke about it because I absolutely believe it's our coping
Mm-hmm.
mechanism and helps us to depersonalize so we can keep going and keep helping them. So there definitely is a downside. Our job is so hard. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play your shoulder angels. I'll be your like bad shoulder angel, which is like your protective mommy shoulder angel, and then I'll be your like good nurse Flo shoulder angel where you want to like heal the world.
Okay.
So, bad shoulder angel. My anecdote is from the age of 11. Like I said, previously, I've talked about I decided I wanted to go into medicine and I was going to be a pediatrician at that point. But I wanted to go into medicine and I knew that. I didn't consider nursing until a little later on after the age of 11. I think I was all of 18, but put like 7 years of thought into that.
Nice.
But I was talking with my family physician who was also a family friend, and I think, I don't know, I was probably 15, 16 thereabouts, and I was really excited because of course, every time I go to the doctor I was like watching what they were doing because that was going to be me someday. I was going to be the doc. I was going to be that pediatrician. And so I said something to him and to the effect, like I want to go to medical school and I want to become a physician. And he totally dissuaded me. I mean, or at least attempted to. He was like, I wouldn't do it. It's really, really hard. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it again. And he kind of spoke candidly with me about the reasons why. And he didn't sit there and go into very personal detail or anything, but we had like a 3 to 5 minute
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And my little eyes were
Oh.
probably like, oh. Because, and looking back, I appreciate that he felt open enough that he could talk to me about, his opinion and why he thought I should or should not go into medicine, and instead of just giving me this canned answer. But I was definitely I was a little let down at his response because I expected the encouraging
Right, right.
speech.
Like, oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, it's fabulous. You're gonna heal the world and you're gonna save everybody, and it's just, medicine is honorable and it's amazing. And I was like, how can he not love what he does? And of course it's tough, but that's what's so romantic and amazing
Mm-hmm.
about it. And I was kind of disillusioned, actually. I was like, whoa. And I remember just thinking about that, but it was kind of, and I still remember that to this day. But and in my mind, he was a huge part of the reason why I wanted to go into medicine, because I thought he was fantastic. And he, even just as our family physician, he he was there for my family and for me personally, like after my mom died. And every time I'd go in, whether it was like bronchitis or strep or just for like a checkup, he would like take personal time. And how are you doing, Erin? How are you doing, after, without your mom? How's everything going at home? And so just he took those moments that I just thought were really special. And so to have this man who was such an example to me try to talk me out of my dream, I was a little disconcerted. So obviously I still went into medicine and I totally ignored him.
But
But
you
I,
listen to
as a mother,
him in some
I
ways.
I did. I listened to him. His words stuck with me, and I've had those moments where I'm like, I can see why you for your daughter, and why, because he did care for me. Um, it's a caution, like, hey, not saying don't do it. I wouldn't say that. I mean, I know we jokingly say that sometimes, but or at least I do. But like, here's some things maybe you should know. It's not all glitz and glam. It's not always we're saving lives every single day. There is a downside, and maybe if that's not up to you, maybe if you want to take bathroom and potty and or bathroom and lunch breaks when you want to, and you want to get off every day on time, and you don't want to get called in on your days off, then maybe this isn't the field for you. It's not even the blood that's the problem. Like, to me, that's a whole separate issue. Like, I don't even care about that part of it. But do you want to be running on your feet for 10 hours and then trying to chart like a madman at the end of your shift? Or so I think personally, I see, don't tell them no, but I think it's good to have that candid conversation just to kind of open their eyes to it. So that's my bad shoulder
Okay,
angel.
well, it's not that I'm scared of blood necessarily. It's that she faints, literally faints, whenever she sees blood.
Well, then she might just weed herself out.
But she doesn't want to be
If she can't get
that
through.
kind of nurse that deals with blood because she wants to go into mental health. She's very interested.
But you have to get through it
Exactly. So that's
first.
what we talked about. I was like, you're going to see plenty of blood and
Yeah.
clean up plenty of poop before you
Yeah.
get to go to your specialty.
Absolutely. And I do remember us talking about like an NP in the psych world, and she actually I think would be amazing. But yeah, you kind of have to take your knocks and go through quite a few years. So, at that point she's either going to decide like this is so not for me, or she'll have the fortitude. And I could see her just sticking with it because I know her, because she wants that
Yeah.
end goal. And I think she would do well at that. But I could see your apprehension as your daughter. The good shoulder angel is she would be amazing at that specific thing. Like, I wouldn't, like, maybe this is bad, but I'm kind of feeling the same thing as you. Like, I don't want to see her being like a floor nurse. Because it is. It's hard. We need them. There's the good shoulder angel. We need them, and we need good ones. We need excellent ones who are intelligent and compassionate and can think on their feet. And, not everybody's going to be a nurse practitioner, and not everybody's going to be a CRNA or, an ICU nurse. We need these good people, but it is a hard job emotionally, physically, academically. It's very demanding, and there's a lot of jobs out there. There's many days that I'm like, what could I have been? Because, like, my brain doesn't go anywhere other than medicine. I don't even, but there are so many jobs out there that I don't even know exist.
I know. Well, she's a state award winning playwright
Oh,
now.
she
So
is?
she has a great mind. Yes, I know. I've never talked
I
about
had
that.
no
But
idea. I
anyway,
don't think our listeners knew that, though.
but no, she has a brilliant mind, but I do worry about her being on the floor
Hmm.
because she has like physical, I don't know, limitations. Like all of us start out with a good back and then we break it, but no, she starts out with a bad back,
Right.
and I feel like, oh man, I just don't want her to do that because that's my mommy mode.
Right.
but you're right. She would be amazing
Right.
at
In the
it.
psych
But
realm,
what kind of?
we
Oh yeah,
which we need,
and
and I
I
detest. So good for her. Sorry, guys.
I know.
Just being
I
honest.
know.
It's everywhere. You can't get away
Um,
from it.
every nurse is a psych
Exactly.
nurse.
And as a
Like that
naive
would be
little
her
nursing student,
specialty.
I had no idea that that was true. I thought I'll just get through my psych rotations and I'm done and I never have to do them again.
No.
Holy cow, that's not true.
The mind accompanies
It's
everything.
everywhere.
So, but other than for my daughter, like
Yes.
what advice would you give somebody that's like contemplating going into nursing specifically versus like another allied health? We'll just leave medicine out of it because I think that's like a whole other realm. And I think people that are contemplating that are contemplating a whole other set of things because
So
it's like med
nursing
school's
versus
very
okay,
vigorous.
so nursing versus like a non-medical job or nursing versus something else in the healthcare field.
Nursing versus like allied health. So instead of like so nurses versus nursing because most people like they're like I want to do something in the medical field
Gotcha.
and they're not thinking I want to be a physician or something else. They're thinking I want to be like a nurse or a respiratory
Gotcha.
therapist or a physical therapist.
Okay, okay. Because I think of it as I'm considering nursing, or I want to be a teacher, or, something where it's like completely, that's been my experience, or, younger kids, like, I'm really into technology and IT, but I actually really love nurse medicine at the same time. I find it interesting. And there's like these two polar opposite fields because I think nursing and any medical job, I think a lot of the pros and cons are the same, honestly. So I kind of look at it from a different viewpoint, I think, than you are. Um, I kind of would say a lot of it, at least, but because I'm looking from the acute care side, I'm looking from hospital RTs, hospital speech therapists, hospital,
Yeah.
all of that, I think is very similar. Um, this,
Yeah, you're right. There are. And like Allison is thinking of either being like a theater major or a nursing major,
right,
which they are very different.
right. I know. I don't know, what was I going to be? I don't think I ever had like a or. So, okay. So other than if it's,
Oh, I did.
well, yeah.
I was going to be either an author
Which you are.
or a lawyer,
Oh, I forgot about that.
or I wanted to be a senator,
Right?
which thank goodness I didn't do that.
Other than like a little,
I think
yeah, no. Other than like a little child dreams, I don't. Once I did, I mean, I guess I was 11, so I was pretty set on medicine.
you were. I didn't decide until I already had two
Yeah,
children
it was
that I was like,
way
yeah,
later.
nursing.
Anyway, okay, so if it's not our child we're talking to, which I guess the same rules honestly probably should apply. I would again though, I think my answer would be the same to just have a candid discussion, not to totally dissuade them, but just to be like, okay, well, first of all, maybe what part of medicine slash nursing are you wanting to do, hospital nursing? Are you wanting to do, mid levels where you're treating, you're the provider, or you being whether it's family practice or psych. Are you wanting to work in a clinic doing immunizations, for kiddos, or what research? There's so many different things. Nursing practice. What area you're really looking into. Which I think initially when people think about nursing, they just think about bedside nursing, unless they really know
Mm-hmm.
about the field or they have a family member or a good friend in the field. Then you realize like, oh, nurses do all those different things. Like I don't think people realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just, like this is the lifestyle. Is that something you like? And is there stuff that you maybe don't like about that? And some things, it may be a turnoff to some people, but other people may really love that. We get our ER nurses who are those adrenaline junkies, and you tell them you're in a really fast paced environment, you're working 12-hour shifts, you're on your feet, and some people are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And other people are like, oh
Yeah.
my good golly. But I just think having that candid discussion and see what's their fit. Does it fit them? That's what I think it comes down to.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a it may be a credit to me that I haven't completely destroyed the image of nursing in my own family because she
Right?
still wants to do it. So I must
Yeah.
be telling her good stuff about it
You've been a
too.
good example and you didn't even know it. So, I would like to hear from
Oh
our
man.
listeners though, like the fellow nurses, like what would you say? What would your advice be? Or what is your advice when people talk to you about going into nursing, whether it's the little nursing students you're precepting or just people in general in your life? And then also for the listeners who are maybe not in the medical field but are considering nursing because you love us. Like I want feedback, guys. Like what's making you consider it? What are your questions about it? So let us know. Reach out to us on Facebook or statsisters.com. Leave us comments on our YouTube or whatever, our link for the podcast, and we will definitely get back to you. But I would like to hear, like, what is everybody else's? Because maybe they're thinking about stuff we aren't even considering.
Yeah. Okay, so I have my toe in the academic world. I'm not a professor, but I do like clinicals. I have a lot of friends that are faculty. And so when you were when you were like applying for nursing school, did you have to do an interview? Or did you
Yeah.
have to write,
I'm trying to
kind of like write an essay or anything like that?
I can't remember. I want to say both, actually. I
Yeah, because
know,
I
I
think
know I did an interview.
sometimes, okay, so I think that they're getting away from the interview. Like in some colleges and universities, they're going more like on a point-based system.
Right.
And so it's all about the
Mm-hmm.
academics and like how many points you have. And then the top people kind of just get in and then the rest get put on a waiting list and then you get more points for the next go round. And I think that that is kind of a disservice because so many people leave nursing right away in the first 2 years. And
Absolutely.
I think that maybe if we brought those interviews back, we'd get some less academically like superstars, but people that actually love
Right.
nursing and then feel called to
Where you can
nursing.
see that passion. I mean, we're not wanting to hire people who are boneheads. Let's be clear. We want somebody who can handle
No, everybody
can
meets the
handle the
minimum
criteria. But
requirements.
yeah, I agree that maybe it's not, and it's not, no, not maybe. It is not just book smarts that counts. If you can meet the criteria and you can handle, what we're doing, then there's a whole gamut of, bedside personality and like you said that passion because you're not going to see that in somebody's GPA. You're not going to see why they
No.
were a 3.82 instead of a 4.1 because maybe they were a struggling single mom of three, but this is what they've wanted to do for years and years and years. Or somebody affected their life and it really drove them. And that's going to make them those amazing nurses, especially on those hard shifts. Is this, um, you won't see
Mm-hmm.
that in just a point system. Even with an essay, I think it's just not the same. I think an essay is kind of a poor man's excuse for an interview. I mean, yes, it's good to see somebody's ability to write, but again, if we're actually doing like patient care, aside from our charting, we're not, the majority of us are not publishing. We're not going on to
Right.
become, advanced practice nurses where that writing skill, where, yeah, you definitely need that. So if you can, express yourself with the written word adequately, fine. But I think an interview is way more important, and I think shows more personality, definitely.
Yeah, I think that we need to reevaluate how we're accepting people into nursing because I've noticed this trend that so many people leave in the first 2 years, and then the rest, like a large majority of the rest of them are like, we're not staying at the bedside, we're advancing our degree and we're leaving the bedside. So put those two together, there's a huge turnover at the bedside.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember multiple people in my program. We had I think we had like 71 to start, and we lost. We didn't lose. I mean, we lost maybe I think four or five by the end. I could be totally wrong. My colleagues are probably my co-students are like, "Whatever, Erin, you're so wrong." But in my mind, we lost about four or five, and some of them, of course, didn't even get through nursing school because they were like, oh man, this is not for me. Whether it was academically too challenging or they were just not interested in the medicine. They were like, oh yeah, this is not what I want to do. And for those people, I applaud them for actually, having the fortitude and the courage to change their career. So good for them to find something that they were passionate about. But I remember multiple people in the program who had had zero medical experience aside from going to the doctor themselves. And it always amazed me, like, how did they just wake up one day and decide, like, yeah, I think I'm going to be a nurse. I think I want to do that. And they'd never done like CNA work or even like a front office receptionist. I mean, like zero exposure. And some of them did great. And again, like you said, a few of them, they got into nursing and they were like, this is not me. Um, and I think we would maybe weed that
Right.
out a little bit if we made the application process a little more personal. So, as a kind of a attachment to that point that you just brought up, I'm going to give you a question back. How do you feel the trend of going away from ADNs at the bedside to a BSN minimum is affecting that turnover where we're losing so many of our nurses, not just because they find out it's not for them, but the ones that, like you said, who go on and their initial plan is to go on to get their master's or their doctorate or to go on, into management or professors or whatever. How do you feel, or do you feel that trend where we're pushing that BSN track is affecting that turnover and loss at the bedside that we're having?
I have no scientific data.
Personal opinion.
Okay, so my
I have one.
personal opinion. Well, first I want to clarify that by no means do I think that it's all nurses' fault, and that's why we have such a huge now I can't think of the word. Is it attrition? I don't know. It's when nurses leaving. I don't think it's because nurses aren't motivated for the right reasons that they're leaving. I think that is a contributing factor, but there's a ton of reasons why nurses leave the first couple of years of their career. So that being said, I think I can just go off of my experience. Like, I wanted to be a nurse. It was a very analytical decision because I already had two kids, and I took a bunch of tests to see like what my aptitudes were, and it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And then I fell in love with it while I was in nursing school, and so I was lucky, and I had this passion, and I think because I did listen to those aptitude tests, so like, and I've always been a caregiver, and I had some experience in healthcare, and so I was prepared when I went to nursing school. But I got into a BSN program, and then my professors, like in nursing school, I decided I was gonna definitely go on and get my graduate degree. I didn't know what in at that point, but they like told me like I should. And so from the very beginning, before I even hit my first nursing unit, I was on my way out of bedside nursing.
Exactly. And I was the other way. I had always just planned on doing the ADN route because I did not want to do management, and I've done it and I still don't like it. Um, and I wanted to be at the bedside. I went into medicine to be at the bedside because that is my passion. And because of where I was geographically, I got into a BSN program and I was like, great. It was especially, it's still pretty much the same job. You really get paid kind of the same, even now, a decade later. Uh, but I felt that same push. But I was the person who was like, I don't want to go on to that. I'm not a business major for a reason. I'm not into research and development for a reason. I'm in medicine because that's where my heart lies. And so I got that same push in my BSN program. So you're going to go into your master's, right? You're going to get your doctorate. And I was like, no. And it's not, I mean, yeah, I don't want to do more school, but I am doing what I love. And I kind of wonder. I mean, I think there are definitely some perks, and we've talked about that before, to having a BSN versus an ADN. But we all know there's amazing associate degree nurses out there. There's amazing LPNs out there that I learned from. But I kind of wonder if we didn't have that push, if it was just BSN and you're at the bedside, great, but that's not where it ends. And all these baccalaureate prepared nurses are pushed to keep going, keep going, keep going. And like you said, some of them hit the units like you did, and you were already halfway out the door. So maybe if we could still have those ADN programs where those are nurses who want to be at the bedside and that's what they want to do, that's their end goal, then maybe we wouldn't have quite the turnover that we're having and that nursing shortage, because so many of the, a certain percentage of these new nurses are just a transient population on their way to, their end goal, which is, way down the road and definitely not at the bedside. So I don't know. It's something I've considered.
Yeah, I've never considered that, because I think there's value in what you're saying, and it's interesting. I think that the thought around making the BSN the entry level degree is that would be the new ADN. That those people that wanted to be at the bedside, but I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe they do get that push because they're at a different level of school to just keep going. I know I really did. Like, I really did.
Oh, yeah.
And it was easier for me to say yes because nursing wasn't something that since I was 11, that I wanted to do, and so I'm much more interested. Like, of course, I loved being at the bedside. And when I do still get to do it, I'm just like, ooh, it's so great. But I love, the academic side. So that's another great thing about nursing, because there's room for everybody. There's room for people that want to be at the bedside forever, and there's room for people like me that want to do more research and writing and stuff. So it's a good tent to be in.
Different career paths. It is a great tent to be in. It really is. So I guess that's our sounding, or maybe that's our answer. We do. It might be crazy. There might be really hard days. There might be times even that we're like, what the heck are we doing here? But in the end, we really do love what we do.
Yes.
I really can't picture myself doing something else. And it's not that other professions aren't fabulous. It's just, I really couldn't picture something else. So.
No, because it's something that you are. It's not something that you do. You are a nurse.
This is true.
You don't work nursing. You are a nurse. I don't know.
Right? Yeah. We own it. We own it. So, all right. Well, I hope that helps. I feel like we kind of meandered a little bit, but that tends to be our MO. So
yeah.
Hope we didn't lose you on the path.
So bottom line, if you're thinking about nursing, go and actually do a few shadow shifts, talk to a lot of different people that are in the career, talk to people that have left if you can, and because they're going to tell you exactly why they left. And then you can then you can go in and you'll have more resilience if you understand what you're getting into, and it's your choice, other than just like you go in all idealistic and like, I'm going to be Florence Nightingale, and then no.
Some days you are. Some days you are, and it feels so good. And then other days, not so much. But that's okay. I think it's the same with any job. So, there's a good and bad.
Well, first, I want to talk about our number one fan.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
We're going to post her picture, but it's Lisa.
Yes, and she was so excited / embarrassed.
So she got, when we had our reunion, our dad sisters reunion, she came to visit us, and she brought a foam finger because she's our number one fan.
Like, we're number one. It was so great. So of course we had to take pictures and embarrass her even further, but she just loved it.
It was
great.
She
has been supportive of us, and she is completely non-medical. Completely.
Yep.
And yet she just eats it up. And if we don't have an episode, or oh man,
she's texting.
Carrie hears it.
I know, she's like, where's my episode?
She keeps us going. So for those of you who love us and love Stat Sisters, give a shout out to Lisa, and you can help to tell her thank you for supporting us, because she keeps us going, so we can give you more.
Yes, and if you want, you don't have to get a foam finger, but if you want to put your finger up as a number one and tell us that you're our number one fan, we will post your picture on our accounts.
Absolutely, and give us a little blurb about you. Why do you love us, and why do we love you? We want to get to know. We want to know our fans. So yes, post your pictures, and we will We will put you all over. We will spam you over the internet, baby. In a good way.
Yes. All right. So, do we have any nurses in the news?
All right, Carrie, so are we ready for our nurses in the news?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Oh, goody. So, well, we were looking this week for our nurses in the news that we wanted to recognize. I actually stumbled across a whole bunch of really neat stories, but there was one that I really liked. Let me see if I can find my link here. So, it happened in Florida, and there was this woman, Amy Smythe. She's a nurse from Delaware, and she was running a half marathon. I don't remember the name of it. Some kind of Floridian half marathon. Oh, in Key West.
Okay.
As she was crossing the finish line, she saw a man in front of her collapse, and she's a cardiac nurse, and so immediately she could tell that he was in distress and that he needed help, and so she started doing CPR and stabilized him, and I'm assuming, it doesn't really say, but I'm assuming paramedics or whatever came and rushed him off to the hospital, because it does say that after that she never knew what happened to him. Like he,
Which that happens to us all the time.
I was just gonna say that. That's totally our profession. They go off to the next unit, and you never hear from them again. And I believe this was just in, golly, I think it was January of this year. Let me double check my dates. Yeah, January 26th is when the story was published, so it was earlier that month. So it was January of this year. So he was whisked away like normal, and she never got any follow-up, and she was kind of thinking, like, maybe it's a good thing I never found out what happened to him, but it was kind of eating at her, because of course she was naturally curious as to what happened. And so apparently this man, he did make it. Her efforts actually saved his life. And a few weeks later, his name is, oh, I hope I don't butcher it, Bill Amaralt, and he's actually from Colorado. So the amazing thing is neither of them are even from Key West. That one was from Delaware and one was from Colorado, but they were both here running the same half marathon at the same time, right next to each other. So he recovered, and he was in his hospital bed, and he had been posting videos on social media trying to find this nurse and these people who helped save his life. And Amy's friends actually showed her his video, and she reached out to him, and they were able to get in contact with one another. And she said when she saw him, she just burst into tears at how well he looked and how like, obviously healthy he was. And I thought it was cute. The patient said he's now going to learn how to do CPR. So he's very grateful, for her skills that saved his life. And he says we've thanked them from the bottom of our hearts, including Amy and these other, first responders. He said they don't want the recognition. They were just doing what they normally do. And I thought that was really sweet. And then kind of as the cherry on top, they're all planning. So Nurse Smythe and the patient and others who were there at the scene and helped save his life, they're all planning on meeting together next January in Key West so they can walk the half marathon together.
Oh, I like that they're going to walk it. They're like, we're not going to
right?
test out his heart again.
He is a recovering cardiac patient, so probably a good move.
I love it, but good for him to get right back up and conquer it again.
I know.
That's awesome.
Cardiac rehab nurse will be thrilled. So I just thought that was really endearing and sweet. I just love those stories. You hear about these off-duty nurses all the time, and I just thought, like, how great that she just went and she did her job, and even though she wasn't at work, and she had no idea what happened after that, and serendipitously they were able to meet back up together, and it was a happy ending. So I just
That's
really
awesome.
That
like goes back to what we were saying. Nursing isn't something you do from 7 to 7.
Right.
It's what you are. And she was a nurse even though she was doing a marathon.
I know. And she still had the stamina to give compressions after
I know,
running a half
right?
marathon. I'm impressed. Way to
That's
go, Amy
awesome.
Smythe. That's impressive in and of itself. I'm just saying, you go, girl.
I know, right?
And company. It says there were other individuals involved, but it doesn't name any names. So whoever else, thank you for your efforts and way to go, way to represent nurses across the nation. So that was great.
Oh, I love that he says that he's going to learn CPR now. So he's potentially can save someone else's life. I think
I
that's
know, isn't that
awesome.
great?
Yeah, and I
He's
think
paying it forward.
he is paying it forward. And not everyone would feel comfortable like sticking their mouth right on someone else's mouth. So nurses might just jump in and put their mouth on a complete stranger that's been running a marathon and has cotton mouth. But not everyone feels comfortable
Gross.
doing that.
This is very true.
And even some nurses may not feel comfortable doing that because we know what all kinds of germs and whatnot, and people that pass out and stop breathing, often they will vomit, and so it's not a great thing all the time to do actual mouth to mouth. Yeah, American Heart Association has this great program that's hands only CPR, and we're going to link to that on our website and on this video, and it's great because anybody can do it, and you don't have to put your mouth on anybody, and it's actually really effective.
Staying alive.
So it's
Why am
something
I singing
anybody
the
can
Bee Gees?
do.
Why am I singing the Bee Gees, Carrie?
Because that is how fast of a rhythm you need. Because you're supposed to do 100 compressions a minute.
100 compressions a minute with recoil. Got to get that recoil.
Yes.
Or it's
So
one.
check that out because anybody can do that, and it's more effective. The compressions are the most important part we have found after years of doing this. The compressions are the key, not the breathing. The breathing is important, but circulating the
It's
blood.
secondary.
Blood already
Yeah.
has some oxygen in it.
Yep, the latent oxygen that's already left behind. I think you're oxygenating at like 80%. I'm totally making statistics up here, so nobody give me a grade. But it's been proven to be enough to continue to perfuse your brain and your vital organs
Yeah.
until, EMTs or, professional medical help can arrive. And so that's a New American Heart Association standard they're teaching for civilians is hands only CPR. Yes, hands only. So I was thinking hands free for a second, but that's driving.
That would be super, super fancy if you could do hands. They have a machine for that.
I was just gonna say, and here at St. Mungo's, we can use magic, but
Yes, you can use your wand. But we don't even have to do CPR. We're just like, twing.
This makes me think of that scene. I never watched The Office, but I'm sure anybody in medicine knows from the show The Office. There's a
Friends
scene where
off right now that you've never seen The Office. Boo.
I just hey, I've seen this scene where they're doing like a work CPR class. And
Yes,
you know what
it's so funny.
we will be linking that as well because it is
Oh my
fantastic.
Okay,
gosh,
I've
it
seen
made me
all the
laugh.
Office episodes twice at least.
Oh my
You guys,
gosh, you're such a dork. Love you.
well, that was a great episode of our podcast.
So anyways, I agree, Carrie. I think it's a great idea because there are a lot of people who are very nervous and they're completely non-medical. But I think hopefully this will encourage more people to take CPR classes and learn how they could be helpful in an emergent situation until, a medically trained professional can arrive. So sign up for your classes. There are community classes. Find them through your hospital or your local fire stations sometimes do them. You've got, infant and children's CPR, babysitting CPR classes, but sign up for them. You could save a life someday when you're running a marathon and you cross that
Absolutely.
finish line and the guy in front of you collapses.
Yes,
It
and know
happens.
where your AEDs are at work or wherever you like frequent. If you're like
Yes.
go to the library a lot or the gym, know where the AED is because that's the
I know
little
what
box
an
that
AED is.
Yeah, know what that is and then know where it is, because anybody can use it. It tells you exactly what to do, and a lot of times that is all you need, is just like a little shock, and then you're
Yeah.
back up and running.
Get you out of that rhythm.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, if my kids can figure out my iPad, then they could use an AED. I'm not
Yeah.
kidding. Like
Yeah.
it's that simple. It's like Nick Jr. simple. So, all right. Well, anything else we need to add, Miss Carrie, or are we wrapping this up since we've kind of gone astray here?
Yeah, well, that's what we do. It's okay.
And that's why they love us. Because we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Mm-mm. Okay. Well, I have enjoyed this episode. Thanks for chatting with me.
Oh, you're welcome. I've immensely enjoyed it. We've had some good topics, and I think we just got increasingly more fun as the time went on. So
Yeah.
thank you. And thanks to our listeners for hanging in there. They're probably like shaking their heads as they're driving in their cars right now.
Hey, wow, this has
Reach
gone
out
off
to
the
us.
rails.
I know. Reach out to us. I know there's a couple things we asked for some comments on, so be sure to reach out to us at stepsisters.com or on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are working on getting our iTunes. We're like one step away from our iTunes being back up and running, but we're on SoundCloud. We're
The
on
iTunes. I am like emailing back and forth. They are a hard bunch, but we love them. Please, iTunes.
We love
please
them.
reinstate
They're
us.
huge.
There was like a little glitch in our
Glitch.
whatever it's called. I don't know what that is. That computer junk.
We used emojis, and apparently you're not supposed to.
Yeah, I messed up our
Booted us off.
HTML thing, so they're like
Yeah.
delete. So we
Anyway,
are back
so
on
we're
iTunes, but
almost
we'll be
back on
officially
iTunes.
back soon.
Yes, and we're on Vine. No, not Vine. I'm making things up
Vine's
now.
dead. You're old. All right, bye.